I'm ministering to families and children under the umbrella of what they call the Director of Religious Education. And that means that how do I provide um, the formation for families, children, and um, people in our community.
To make it better, we could fix up some of these abandoned houses and stuff.
Fix 'em up and do what with them?
I personally want to start like a garden, community garden, because there's a whole lot of homeless people. So if we get a community garden, we can just get the food, get them food.
Wow, that's deep.
It's not making money if you can sell stuff.
We're gonna put a community.
But this summer, if I were to sum up, how do we love one another, is that when we hear in Psalms 139 that even before we were born, even before we were conceived, God had already called us. He had called us each by name in his creation, and then he knit us into the wombs of our mothers. From that, we are in his image. We are called to love one another.
Hi, I'm Tanya Murphy with Motor City Job and Tea House. I'm one of the owners. I have two partners, Megan Murphy and Alicia George. If I could change anything about Detroit, it would be our transportation situation that we have here. It's not conducive for the populace, and we need better transportation for our citizens to make a thriving company. For most major metropolis, they have a great transportation system. We don't have one. We started off at the Motor City, and the way we were formed is in that mindset, and now the latent effects now is that we're no longer the Motor City. We're rediscovering ourselves right now. No one has put a finger on what we are right now. But right now I see us as a thriving arts community, local gardening and farming. Pretty much that's what our industry is now, is a lot of that. But transportation is needed. We won't be able to sustain ourselves without the adequate transportation of people getting back and forth to work and back and forth to meet and to socialize with each other. We can't do it.
And we are called to be people of peace. Peace is a 5-letter word, P-E-A-C-E. So it's not something that we take for granted. Love, L-O-V-E. They're just a 4-letter word, not to be taken for granted. How do we use our voice to advocate love? How do we follow the commandments to see the image of Christ in one another and to love regardless?
More police presence. I mean, riding through, walk through, just police presence around here more than anything. You know, things get seen, things being done around here, and nobody says anything. You know, the no snitching thing. That's crazy. If you're not doing right, if you're not right, then you're not right.
So do you feel like you live in the hood or a neighborhood?
I honestly, here, hood.
So
I work in the neighborhood. I work in Bloomfield.
Right.
I see the difference.
So you would like this to be a neighborhood?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like it used to be back in the 60s.
All right, so look at that. Sound.
Yeah, back in the 60s.
But that also takes forgiveness, and it takes work to do that. And so that's what we do as Christians. So when we look around the city, when we start looking at the city of Detroit, and we see someone standing, what should we do first? Not judge the situation. Why are they standing with a sign that says, I need help, I need food? The first thing we should do, even if we're not going to roll down our window, is love them because they're in the image of Christ.
I'm 53. I've lived here in Northwest Detroit for all those 53 years, and I do plan on hanging out a bit longer if I can. But it's just the general acceptance of the way things are, and the constant lowering of the bar for whether it's the morality or just the attitudes in general, allowing just the crime, whether it's the prostitution, the drug use, and the gang type of attitude, where it's just so accepted in just the culture in general. urban American culture. And of course, no one's going to like the solution. You know, there is no good solution. It's unfortunate, but that's, you know, the way it is. If they would have been thinking about that 20, 30 years ago when they were electing the same corrupt people over and over to take their money away, then they might not have been in this situation. So.
The second thing is that we could wish them peace. Peace before them, behind them, the left and the right, and that God touches their minds so that they can remove themselves out of that situation. And so that is part of my life mission, is to love, to serve, and to be an advocate of peace and justice on this earth.
Hell,
Hey, you get Black Cherry
some abandoned
game.
houses. They need to do something about that. And what else?
Okay, with that, what do we think about the people and how can we impact them, make their lives better?
I don't know, a little more structure, love, concern, showing someone that they care about, you know, care about one another. I don't.
Yeah, straight
That's
up.
perfect. That's it right there, Kevin.
And it begins each day. Each day I have a new opportunity to love, to serve, and as the song says, I give myself away so you can use me. I give myself away. And that takes everything.
I went to high school in Livonia, Michigan, but since I've been married, I'm living in Detroit. One thing I kind of noticed is that, to me, like, Detroit is sort of like a donut in a way, where the center of the donut is your downtown area where the rent center is and everything, and you know, your sports arenas, your theaters and everything, but the neighborhoods make the part of the donut that, and when people coming into Detroit, what they have to go through to get to the nice downtown is this part that is just falling apart. And so what I guess I'd like to see is to try to make that whole spread out so we don't have this difference between the center of the donut and the round part of the donut, so that Detroit is one whole thing. You know, a lot of people left when the police didn't have to live here anymore. But I know that our big company, I think it's Quicken Loans, is trying to encourage young people to come back and live downtown. I think they're putting perks out there to try to welcome them back in again, and so it's positive, but it just seems to be taking so long to see that kind of change. And I mean, when you have the corruption, probably is something that slows that kind of positive change too, because the funds aren't going where they're supposed to be. Part of Kwame Kilpatrick's thing was that we used to have bulk pickup every month, which was really important, because you have people who move into a house that hasn't been cleaned out. Somebody's lived there for 50 years. Now they have all this stuff they want to put out. You got to wait for 3 months to go by before you can put it out now, because he made a cut there. So yeah, little things like that. But I'm hoping that, you know, with our new mayor, that maybe we'll see some positive neighborhood stuff. Some houses being pulled down already. I mean, 3 things that make up things that are going on in the neighborhood that could probably keep people from really wanting to even kind of walk through my neighborhood. You know, I used to walk, through my neighborhood to get to like 7 Mile Road, the shopping district. But then I sort of stopped, because there's 3 things. There's one is prostitution. Another one is people not selling drugs, but they meet their drug connection in the middle of the street, 2 cars, reach their hand out. That's another thing. And the third thing is kind of like vagrant people who are asking for handouts. And then if you give them some, they say, well, don't you have any more? It's like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to deal with that. So those three things kind of keep people from wanting to spend any time around my neighborhood. So I guess that's kind of one thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll say one other thing. This summer, my mother said to me, "To thee, O Lord, I lift my hands. If I should draw my hands from thee, where shall I go?" The most beautiful part of that is that God never takes his hands off of us. And I think that's what everyone needs to know, regardless where they live.
That they give more attention to the neighborhoods. Since the bankruptcy and all the development going on downtown, you got the world-class museum right down here, and I'm not seeing any energy coming up from people saying, okay, Motown's got this corner, in this neighborhood is only just these few blocks to the freeway. And I'm like, well, where's the development? Where's the interest? Where's the money? It's and then you got the big church here, King Solomon. You got a lot of people that are really interested in local civic causes and stuff. And I'm wondering, well, there's a lot of grassroots, but there's not a lot of action going on from the people that got the influence and the power.
So you're saying from the top down, the
down.
resources is not necessarily connecting with the people?
Not necessarily, right. And I'm
feel-
not seeing it from the city or these private businesses or anything.
Foundations. So
Not as good as it could be.
So you feel like this neighborhood has been abandoned? The people has been abandoned?
I think it's been neglected.
Neglected,
Not
abandoned.
necessarily abandoned, but I just think it's been
That's
neglected.
that's a better word, more precise.
Yeah.
Okay. In regard to the people, what do you think the people can do despite as far as from the bottom? What we need to do?
More action, more reaction. Every time you see something that's out of place, that's wrong, say something, do something. There's plenty of places you can go and be anonymous, and you don't have to worry about, is somebody watching me? Is somebody worried about if I'm doing the right thing or not? Am I stepping on somebody's toes? Not about all that. It's about doing what's right for the kids around here, for the seniors around here. And quality of life.
Well, you know what? But love and action.
Action.
You know what? When we're going to show love and give love, that means that we are lifting someone up out of a situation and we're giving them the tools. So we're loving them enough that the work that's going to be involved in getting them out of that situation, that means advocating for them if they need health care, advocating for them if they need identification so they can get a job, advocating for them with enough love if they need housing. So we need to love one another enough. So someone who's down and out, yes, we give them bread, but also they need more than bread.
The things that I would like to change about Detroit is to clean up more of the trash and get rid of the dumping sites. By cutting down weeds and stuff, we find a lot of dumping sites. And then you'll find unsolved crimes too when they clean up those dumping sites. Thank you, Never.
They need the tools where they can make the bread themselves for the following day. So that's where, and when we look at the community with housing that needs to be knocked down, that if it is bringing the integrity or if it's bringing harm, when people look out their window and if they don't see anything but blight, it creates despair. And they wonder, who loves me? Who sees me? Am I invisible? So if we're going to be people, Christian people of love and peace, then we need to get in there and do the work. So that's how Detroit will continue to transform. And there's some transformation happening. I see houses torn down.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sharon Spivey Singleton. I am a resident of the city of Detroit. I've been a resident for 44 years. I moved in from California, LA area.
Okay, so if you could change anything about Detroit, what would it be?
Probably our leadership. We need to have people that are more progressive in taking care of the blight of the city, repairing our roads, being vigilant about tearing down abandoned buildings or making the landlords responsible for their properties. If they own it, then they need to do something about it. I think they need to put a system in place to take care of those type of things.
Okay.